The year is 1956. The location is Jining County, near the serene shores of Lake Dian in southwest China. For decades, local farmers have whispered about strange metal relics turning up in the soil, but nothing prepares the archaeological team for what they are about to uncover beneath the earth at the Shizhaishan necropolis. They dig into the hillside. They breach an ancient burial chamber. Inside, they find human remains, but it is the objects surrounding the bones that stop them in their tracks. The earth yields an astonishing hoard of bronze artifacts. These are not crude, primitive tools. They are masterworks. They find massive bronze kettle drums. They find ornate cowrie shell containers topped with incredibly detailed miniature figures. And then, they find the ultimate prize. A small, heavy object glints in the damp soil. It is a solid gold seal. The archaeologists carefully clean the ancient dirt from its surface. There is an inscription, a Chinese inscription. It reads, "Seal of the King of Dian." A chill runs through the excavation site. For over 2 millennia, the Dian Kingdom was considered by many to be a myth. It was a footnote in a dusty imperial scroll. Now, they are holding proof of its existence in the palm of their hands. A lost civilization has just violently clawed its way back into the light of history. But the artifacts they pull from this tomb will soon ignite one of the greatest historical controversies of the 20th century. To understand the sheer magnitude of this discovery, we have to look at the geopolitical map of ancient Asia. In the 2nd century BC, the Han dynasty was a superpower. The Han court commanded massive armies, endless resources, and a sprawling metropolitan culture. But the far southwest of China was a black box. It was a wild, untamed frontier. The only reason we knew anything about the Dian people at all was because of a man named Sima Qian. Sima Qian was the grand historian of the Han court. He compiled a massive chronicle called the Shiji in the 2nd century BC. In this epic history, Sima Qian recorded the existence of a small fiefdom in the remote southwest. He called them the Dian Kingdom. The stakes were incredibly high. The Han Empire wanted to establish a secure commercial route, crossing through the Dian territory toward the west. They needed to secure the frontier. They needed to project power. Sima Qian's writings were essentially intelligence reports on a foreign entity. The discovery of the Golden Seal proved Sima Qian was right. The Dian Kingdom was real. The Han court had indeed recognized their ruler. But, as historians cross-referenced the newly unearthed artifacts with Sima Qian's texts, a massive, glaring contradiction emerged. The physical evidence did not match the official historical narrative, and this discrepancy threatened to rewrite the entire history of early Asian civilization. Let us rewind the clock. Who were the Dian people? According to the archaeological record, the Dian culture flourished in east-central Yunnan from the 4th century BC to the 1st century AD. They were a highly hierarchical society, ruled by powerful overlords. Sima Qian's historical accounts painted a very specific picture of these people. They were described as part of a mosaic of farming and stock-raising communities spread over a vast territory. This territory covered southern Sichuan, eastern Yunnan, and western Guizhou. The Dian were a sedentary people. They dressed their hair in bun-shaped topknots. They cultivated crops on arable land. They lived in permanent villages. They were part of a distinct political confederacy known as the Mimo. Beyond their borders, the landscape changed. In the expansive areas north and west of the Dian domain, the environment was harsh. Here, Sima Qian recorded lists of nomads and semi-nomads. Among them were tribes called the Sui and the Kunming. These people were drastically different from the Dian farmers. The Kunming nomads braided their hair. They moved their homes freely. They lived by herding domestic animals. They were not ruled by centralized political leaders. Furthermore, the Kunming pastoral nomads were viewed as a hostile force, fiercely resisting the Han's attempts to push a trade route through the region in 122 BC.
So,
we have a clear dividing line. On one side, the settled, crop-growing Dian Kingdom. On the other, the fierce, wandering Kunming nomads. Two entirely different worlds. This was the established historical fact. Until the archaeologists actually looked closely at the bronze art pulled from the Shizhaishan tombs. The Dian bronzes are unlike anything else in the world. They are not just tools, they are archival records, cast in metal. They display a wide range of coiffure and costume styles. But as art historians studied the decorative motifs, a dark shadow of doubt fell over the accepted timeline. The artwork on the bronzes was split into two completely different artistic languages. The first was the schematic style. This style used conceptualized human and animal forms, geometric symmetry, and repetitive patterns. It featured native, water-based motifs, amphibian figures, intertwined serpents, feathered oarsmen paddling canoes, waterfowl. This made perfect sense for a sedentary, river-dwelling farming society in southern China. It connected them to the rice-cultivating Puliao and Iway cultures of Southeast Asia. But then, there was the second style, the realistic style. And this is where the mystery erupts. Found in the richly furnished graves of the Dian aristocrats, these bronzes featured incredibly complex, three-dimensional designs. And the subjects were shocking. The most extraordinary examples were open-work relief plaques, depicting wild beasts and herbivores locked in fierce, bloody combat. Tigers tearing into oxen, leopards attacking deer. This hyper-violent, incredibly realistic animal combat art is the hallmark signature of the nomadic world in the distant Eurasian steppes. It is the art of wandering, horse-riding warriors from the far north. The question echoed through academic halls. How did a supposedly isolated, sedentary agrarian society in southwest China acquire the advanced metallurgical skills to produce highly realistic, steppe-style bronzes? Why were farmers making the art of nomads? The theories exploded. The historical texts must have been wrong. A peaceful farming community does not just wake up one day and start casting flawless, highly complex bronze plaques of tigers ripping out the throats of bulls. They lacked the cultural context. They lacked the metallurgical ancestry. A massive shadow narrative began to form. Some speculated that the Dian Kingdom was actually the victim of a sudden, brutal invasion. A rogue faction of Eurasian nomads, armed with advanced weapons and superior equestrian skills, swept down from the northern steppes. They conquered the peaceful rice farmers of Lake Dian. They installed themselves as the ruling elite. The evidence for this shadow theory felt incredibly compelling. Look at the graves. The smaller grave pits, thought to belong to the commoners and warriors, contained only the simple schematic art. They contained coarse ceramic wares, typical of the indigenous region. But the massive hilltop graves, the tombs of the overlords, they were packed with the realistic steppe-style animal combat plaques. Furthermore, some of these aristocratic graves contained traces of human sacrifice. Some showed signs of limb severing, a brutal custom prevalent in the northwestern periphery of China, far from the Dian homeland. They found bronze models of men in full equestrian gear. These mounted figures displayed Central Asiatic artifact types, like short daggers and specific shin guards. To the conspiracy-minded, the narrative was airtight. The Dian Kingdom wasn't an indigenous marvel. It was a conquered state, ruled by a violent, invading horde of Eurasian nomads who brought their advanced bronze casting and violent art with them. And then, just as mysteriously as they arrived, they vanished. By the end of the 1st century AD, the distinct hybrid art of the Dian culture was completely obliterated, erased from the earth. A lost legion of the steppes, swallowing a kingdom and then dissolving into the mist. It is a fantastic story. It has all the elements of a Hollywood epic: blood, gold, mysterious invaders, and a vanished empire. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. When modern archaeologists stopped looking at isolated looted artifacts and began utilizing rigorous, modern stratigraphic data, the sudden invasion theory completely collapsed. The breakthrough came in the 1990s with the excavation of the Yangfuto site. This site finally provided a complete stratigraphic sequence, allowing scientists to track the Dian culture layer by layer, century by century. They did not find a sudden, violent break in the archaeological record. They did not find a layer of ash and destruction, followed instantly by steppe art. What they found was something far more intricate and far more deeply human. The realistic style and the schematic style were not separated by time. They were not the result of one culture erasing another. Both artistic styles existed side by side throughout the entire lifespan of the Dian culture. The supposedly alien steppe motifs often appeared on the exact same artifacts as the indigenous schematic waterfowl and amphibian designs. If this was a sudden foreign invasion, the indigenous art would have been replaced. Instead, the art was fused. Furthermore, the iconographic details of the animal forms, while stylistically similar to the Eurasian steppes, were clearly of local Southwest Chinese derivation. They were casting local animals. The mystery was not an invasion. The mystery was a slow, deliberate assimilation. The factual truth of the Dian Kingdom is far more fascinating than a simple ghost story of vanishing nomads. The unique bronze artistry of East Central Yunnan was not an anomaly, nor a sudden hostile takeover. It was the breathtaking result of centuries of population movement, continual cultural assimilation, and frequent technological exchange. The archaeological record proves that the ancestors of the Dian elites were likely Diqiang pastoral nomads originating from the upper Yellow River region. Driven by ecological changes, these northern pastoralists slowly migrated south along the Jinsha River over centuries. This river valley was a massive cultural crossroads. As these nomads moved, they encountered the indigenous sedentary farming communities, the Puliao and Weiwei peoples. They did not simply wipe them out, they merged. The nomadic immigrants settled near Lake Dian and implanted their pastoral economy onto the local rice-cultivating substratum. They became a mixed economy. Farmers and herders lived in close proximity. The ruling elite, descended from the northern stock, retained their ancestral affinity for realistic animal art and horsemanship. They used these powerful, realistic animal representations as emblems to maintain alliances among themselves. Meanwhile, they embraced the local schematic art of boats and amphibians to connect with the general populace. The Dian Kingdom was a brilliant, successful hybrid, a true melting pot of the ancient world. And they did not mysteriously vanish into the mist. Their end was tragically terrestrial. By the end of the 1st century AD, the expanding Han dynasty finally tightened its grip. The distinct, brilliant hybrid bronze art of the Dian culture was not lost to time. It was systematically obliterated by the aggressive political and cultural infiltration of metropolitan Han Chinese society. They were simply absorbed, their unique identity paved over by the bureaucracy and customs of a massive empire. The story of the Dian Kingdom is a stark reminder of how easily history can be misinterpreted. When we find something magnificent that defies our expectations, we often invent aliens, lost legions, or mysterious invaders to explain it. We underestimate the incredible capacity of ancient peoples to travel, to share technology, and to build complex, hybrid societies. The gold seal of Shizhaishan did not just prove a myth was real. It proved that the ancient world was vastly more connected, diverse, and dynamic than the imperial historians wanted us to believe. The Dian people left their legacy in brilliant bronze, capturing a fleeting moment in time where the thunder of steppe horses met the quiet rhythm of the rice paddies. Thank you for joining me down the rabbit hole. Next week, we turn our eyes to the freezing waters of the Arctic to dissect the impossible survival logs of a doomed expedition. If you want to uncover the real history hiding behind the myths, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment below with your favorite historical mystery, and never stop questioning the official narrative.